Hello, it's Dawn Michelle and welcome back to my channel. So today we're gonna do the thing. We're gonna talk about how I work with angels because I'm not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. And I do get asked quite a bit about the angel work that I do because angels are an energy or a facet of spirituality that I do work with, but maybe not necessarily in the way that you're supposed to. So I thought today I'm going to attempt to corral my weird work in association with angel energy and try to translate it into something that hopefully makes some sense. We'll be following this video up with a collection video of my angel decks as well, so keep an eye for that coming soon. So I do just want to apologize up front because the majority of the decks that I have to illustrate with today are out of print. I do have a huge selection of Doreen Virtue decks that we're going to be taking a look at today, but we're not really going to be focusing on the creators of these decks or really even these decks in particular. I'm just going to be using them to sort of illustrate what it is that I'm trying to convey to you here today. So angel energy is interesting. A little bit of background. I grew up, as I like to say, spiritually confused. I, as a child, went to a private Lutheran school. I attended Catholic church with my grandmother. I attended Baptist church with my great-grandmother. And at the time, my father was an atheist. So spiritually confused. That was my childhood. And of course, since then, coming into my own and creating my own practices and kind of disassembling all of the things that I've learned and kind of breaking that down into something that makes sense to me, as well as integrating my own personal paths. And I've kind of come to my own understanding of angels, which is not necessarily the traditional understanding of God's messengers or anything biblical. Now, I've pulled out the angel blessing cards here because this representation here of this kind of Renaissance style artwork, I don't know that that's actually the time period because I'm not an art historian, but this type of style artwork is actually some of my favorite when it comes to working with angel energy. I like the kind of history, the softness that these images have, and you'll see that's a really stark contrast to the majority of the images that we see in a lot of the angel decks. There is a whole new kind of modern movement of angel decks as well, where we get some of the decks that have a lot more diversity. They're a lot depicted in a lot of a younger framework. And I think that's really cool, but I don't actually have any of those because this kind of old school flavor is kind of what I have come around to as my understanding of angels or how I see them. While we're talking about angels, let's talk about how I see these energies. I see them in a sense, kind of how I see the Fae, as in they are an energetic representation. So it's much in the way that I also see Mother Mary, and I've talked about that a little bit here and there. I've gone into great detail with it with my members, but I do see Mary, Mother Mary, or the Mary Queen of Angels, however you want to distinguish her. I see her as just a more modern face of the divine feminine. The way I work with Mother Mary is not as in Mary, mother to Jesus, but Mary, a modern mother face of the divine feminine. I see her as being an evolution that has come from the goddesses such as Isis or Ishtar, Demeter, any of those goddesses. The way that I work with goddess energy is very much in alignment with, they are all aspects of the same divine feminine, which is really interesting when you look at things like the Tree of Life, where you have that feminine supernal mother and the masculine supernal. I see everything is coming kind of down from that. I don't fully resonate with the Tree of Life in the way that it is, and I don't know a ton about it, but it reminds me of that, the way that I see the sort of cosmic energy. And the reason that I'm even going into that part of it is because for me, this is all aspects of the single whole. It is all part of the divine whole. And so I just see each of these as being different aspects or representation of divine energy. And so I don't see these particular beings, even though they are, for me, they're personified energy, right? They have names and they have personalities. You know, Metatron has a different sort of energy than Michael does. I can't pronounce half of these. Ramil does. They're all different aspects of the divine energy. And so I kind of see it as like almost in this hierarchy where you have the divine energy, and then it splits into the masculine and feminine, and then continues to splinter off from there. Kind of similar to we see on the Tree of Life until you kind of get down to the mundane realm where, you know, we as humans and animals and plants and the earth itself live. That's my spiritual practice in a nutshell, which is really a hard thing to translate into words in a very, you know, succinct way. But I see angels very much the same way that I see Mother Mary as being an aspect of the divine. And so when I work with angel energy, I'm not necessarily working with the biblical angels. In fact, I'm really not working with the biblical idea of angels at all. What I'm working with is a aspect of the divine that is slightly different from the overarching masculine or feminine divine energy, and certainly higher above or operating on a higher frequency than I am here in the mundane world. Hopefully that makes some sense. You know, it's really hard to just to say, you know, here's how I see angels, and how I actually work with them. So it's a difficult thing to try and put into words, but here I am attempting it anyway. That's my overall sort of look at angel energy. And I'm going to use this deck, even though this deck, the artwork on this deck is not my favorite, and it's super shiny and all the things that we complain about. The deck itself, though, is quite wonderful, and you'll see when we get to my little collection video, I do have quite a few Radley Valentine as well as Doreen Virtue decks. But I wanted to use this particular deck, which is still currently available if you're interested. I do, like I said, the artwork is not my favorite, but the deck reads beautifully and I love the structure. There's only one sort of change that personally doesn't reflect how I view the setup, and we'll get to that here in a moment. But the thing that I like about this particular deck is that we have the major arcana, which represents like a variety of archangels, right? And we do see some of the main ones. One of the things that I really like about this deck is that the Gabriel, or as I've come to think of her, Gabriel, is represented as a female angel, which I appreciate. I really don't, in my personal practice, like an angel is an aspect of the divine. It doesn't really have gender. But when I'm working with it on a personified level, I generally do gender my angels because they tend to lean into one aspect or the other more. So hopefully that makes sense. But here you see we have Uriel. Half of these I can't pronounce. Here's Raphael. He shows up quite a bit. Metatron. I feel like Metatron's in here twice. Yes, he is. He's the Fool and the Chariot. That's one of my complaints about this deck, is that sometimes we get repeating angels. And I get it. An angel can be, you know, multiple facets of the divine. And so that, you know, that does work in that sense, but I just would have preferred that they be all different. But anyway, the major arcana represents kind of this assortment, or this, what do they call it? I forget what a group of angels is called. A choir? Is it a choir of angels? I think it is. But anyway, we have this whole group of angels here in the major arcana. And so for me, I love this idea of these sort of divine, let's call them messengers for lack of a better word, right? I feel like these are very much in the way that we might see sort of ancestral energy, or even to some aspect fae energy, as in these are personifications and embodied energies that we can tap into to help us in our journey in this world. And so that is very much how I work with the idea of angels. It's tapping into, you know, the angel Metatron when I, you know, need to believe in myself, right? It's tapping into the angel Raziel when I want to manifest something. It's tapping into angel Hanel. I can't pronounce these. When I need, to tap into my intuition. And that's very much how I see and how I work with angel energy. It's similar to how I might tap into ancestor energy to pull out to help with a specific work that I'm doing, or I might look to a specific fae or a specific goddess for that matter, right? I think actually comparing this to how I approach goddess work is very similar. When I need, let's just pull out all the decks here. When I am looking for work to help me, or an energy, an embodied energy, a personification that I can tap into to help me with my creative pursuits, I often turn to Isis. She's definitely the goddess that has taken that space for me. And when I need that kind of support, I often turn to Isis for that. Now, when I need some kind of kick butt, tear down the walls support, I will go to Kali. And that's an energy that I will tap into. And that's a personified deity that I will go to in order to help me kind of channel that energy, in a sense, into whatever the work that I'm doing. So in that same regard, I work with angel energy as a personified energy that I can tap into. It helps me make a human connection. And I think that's the really important thing, and why I in particular, and I can only speak for myself, but why I in particular like to work with angels or goddesses or gods or ancestors or fae or animals, because it helps me as a human, with my little puny human understanding of the cosmos, make a connection. I can understand making a connection to an animal. I can understand making a connection to Gabriel if I need this kind of support, right? I can comprehend the vastness that is the divine feminine through the face of Mother Mary. Hopefully that makes sense. But basically, it's just me taking these really huge energies and these ideas and concepts that are largely outside of my human understanding, and trying to break it down into a way that my little human mind can comprehend it. That is how I work with embodied energy in a general sense. But when it comes to angels, I kind of see the just the general, assortment of angels that are here to support us as kind of general overview big life things, right? And I think that is really illustrated well in this deck in the Major Arcana, which we just looked at. But when it comes to very specific work, I kind of have 4 main areas of my life that I tend to do a lot of work in. And I have found 4 main energies that tap into that for me. And so those are energies or personifications of the energy that I can access when I want to do that work. And this deck illustrates it really well, with the exception of one suit. So Archangel Gabriel or Gabriel, as I've come to call her, is one of the main angels that I tap into when I'm looking to do creative work. So when it comes to anything to do with creativity, curiosity, when I'm trying to cultivate something from a place of passion. For me, this energy very much correlates to the wands in the tarot. I forget what each of these actual suits correspond to in this particular deck, but for me, that corresponds to the wands. And so this kind of energy is a very wandsy energy. Gabriel is a very wandsy archangel for me. And so when I need that kind of support, I will tap into her. The difference between tapping into, I should just leave these decks out. The difference between tapping into Gabriel as an archangel versus, say, like Isis as a goddess, for me, these are 2 very different energies. They do kind of occupy the same focus in my practice, but Isis for me is big energy. That's big projects. That's a lot of big picture type of stuff. Whereas Gabrielle feels more on the everyday for me. It's just kind of when I need that more mundane support. It's like a lesser energy in a sense. And hopefully this is making some sense, because I feel like I'm kind of just rambling in circles, and who knows if we're going anywhere. We shall see. So I have my creative work that I do with goddesses like Isis, and then, you know, archangels like Gabriel, if you want to take the masculine for it, which, as we'll see here, I have individual decks for these as well. So this is the Archangel Gabriel deck, and this one is very much tied into creativity work for me. So I tend to use this particular deck when I want to tap into that kind of an energy. And again, that's very wandsy energy for me. It's very much about following my creative passions and my creative pursuits with this particular deck. So another aspect that I tend to do a lot of work on is healing work. Now, I believe this particular deck depicts Raphael as the Suit of Cups, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because I think Ariel is Pentacles, but that's different for me. But what I associate Raphael with, because he is an archangel of healing, is the pentacles. So this is very much pentacle energy for me. It's about being in the body. It's about being in the physical world, in physical space. And when I need to work with that sort of physical healing energy, this is the archangel I would go to. Now, if I had, you know, big things that I needed to look at, I would maybe turn to a separate goddess for that. But I do tend to, because for me, the healing work is very much on a, you know, it's a mundane thing. It's a very mundane, everyday type of in the physical world type of an energy or practice. And so I tend to use just the Archangel Raphael cards for that, or tapping into Raphael's energy. And that helps me to kind of get grounded, to get some support when I am doing my healing work. And so I will often use the Archangel Raphael healing cards for this. Again, another out of print deck. And I'll actually show you in the end how I would do like a whole check-in with these. So moving along, we have Archangel Michael. And for me, Michael, and I'm going to put aside Ariel, because the Ariel's not a archangel that I work with. So we're going to pull that out for this deck. But Archangel Michael is very much in that swords energy for me. And he's the archangel that I go to when I need kind of that like throat chakra work. I mean, let's just throw all the associations in there, right? It's very swords energy. It's when I have conflicts, issues, anything in the mental realm that I'm kind of dealing with. Oftentimes, if there's protective work that I want to do, I will tap into working with Archangel Michael. Anytime anybody in my family travels, I always ask Archangel Michael to look after them. And that's how his energy is represented for me. That's when I'm doing that kind of swordsy work, I will work with Archangel Michael. Again, another out of print deck, but this is the Archangel Michael deck. Again, very much in the swordsy place, very much of the mind, very much in the work for overcoming challenges, for protection, for thoughts and communication. That's kind of what I lean on Archangel Michael for. And so anytime I have something that is around that kind of an energy, I will pull in that personified support through Archangel Michael. Now, kind of detouring a little bit from the whole angel thing, we're going to talk about Mother Mary, and she's often considered the queen of angels, and so I think she kind of works in this area. I have many Mother Mary decks, but we're going to look at the Doreen Virtue one. It, again, out of print. Sorry, just a whole video of out of print decks. But Mother Mary for me represents the cups energy. She's all about connecting to the heart, the emotional space, or compassion. And whenever I need any kind of support work this is who I turn to. And to be perfectly honest, that's the majority of the personal work that I do. These are great keywords because these are all things that I very much associate in the cups area and in the work that I tend to do with Mother Mary. So let's pull these all out and I'll show you kind of how this all goes for me. Okay, so I've pulled out all of these decks. Now you could do this. Again, like I said, there's decks, and I think that Radley Valentine has a whole selection of decks that are coming out or are recently out, focusing on individual archangels. I know I saw one for Michael not too long ago. You could also do this with the minor arcana of your tarot as well. Let's pull in the heaven and earth. I don't have my heaven and earth divided up, but just say that you wanted to do this with the tarot deck. You could certainly divide your tarot deck up into its 4 suits of the minor arcana, and you could use this in very much the same way. Sometimes I will do both, where I will take a deck similar to this one, and I will divide my tarot completely up, and I will do readings with both decks put together. In fact, we'll grab my study centennial, and hopefully this should still be in order so we can pull this out and see how it goes. So when we're talking about working with this energy here, again, I generally will use these as a way to help me kind of see where I need to connect for the type of work that I'm doing. So let's make a little bit of space here, and let's pretend we are trying to do some work with some creative endeavors, right? So what I would do would be to shuffle my Archangel Gabriel deck, or any tarot deck, or any related angel deck, and I'm gonna pull a card for something that I need to focus on. So speeches and speaking. This text sometimes has weird messages. It says you have an important message to deliver that can help others. Okay, so that tells me that I need to be focusing on whatever it is that I'm currently communicating. And if I wanted to, I could do the exact same thing with mixing up all of my cards that were in order. And I could do the same thing and pull a wand. So here we have the 9 of Wands. So maybe what this is telling me here, that the kind of the soul message, or the creative message, or the work that I'm trying to get out there, that I'm trying to, the important message that I'm trying to deliver, I'm struggling with it. And the cards always call me out. There's no such thing as a fake reading on YouTube, I swear. So it's telling me that I'm struggling with this. So at this point, I might, pull in some other decks. I might pull in another, a tarot not divided up to kind of see. This one is terrible for online work because it's really hard to see, but it's what I happen to have right this 5 minutes. So maybe I might pull another card to see where, what do I need to know about this? And now I got the shortened force from the 8 of Swords. So for me, that card is the card of limiting beliefs. So now I'm looking at this going, okay, I'm wanting to do some work in the creative realm. I'm having a little bit of a struggle with it, and maybe I'm letting my limited beliefs hold me back from doing what it is that I need to do. And at this point, I can even pull another card if I want, right? Because always pulling more cards is always fun. So let's pull another message to see, how do I find my way out of this, right? Where's the solution? Where's the action that I need to take? And sometimes I'll use yet another angel deck, which we can do, or we can pull another message, and Gabriel is saying, stay true to yourself. Don't compromise or water down your ideas. Alrighty, so that's what I need to do in order to work through this energy that I'm currently trying to tap into for this creative project. So this is very much how I would be tapping into Archangel Gabriel's energy to help me get through those creative blocks, to help me with my creative work. I also have lots of little things, and do I have one at hand? Of course not, because I didn't think that far in advance. I just pulled out decks and started talking. I have lots of little things, like little chaplets and things that have the imagery and usually a little saying on the end of it that I will pull in as like kind of meditation or prayer beads when I'm doing work with these specific angels. I also have little things like little prayer cards and other little mementos that I can pull into my work with these particular energies. I've got a precarious tower going. So I would do that. I don't know why I put this away, because we're not done. But that's, what I would do if I was working on specific energy, right? If I'm working specifically on creativity, that's maybe something I would do. And actually, we don't need these, but you can get the gist of it, right? If I was gonna do work with, I've already shuffled these. So let's say I don't have an oracle deck, or let's say I just have any random oracle deck, because let's just grab another deck to pull in here. This is the Messages from the Light. It's a great one for sort of tapping into that angel type of work. And I'm going to do the exact same process. I don't need a deck attuned to the specific angel that I'm wanting to work with. I can do this with any sort of decks, right? And I can do it with or without my cards being separated. Sometimes I like to do both, as you just saw me do. So let's pretend we're doing that. So what I'm gonna do is basically take a moment, think about what it is that I need some guidance on in terms of, again, we're looking at creative stuff connected to the kind of passions and pursuits, that really wandsy energy. And I'm going to ask Archangel Gabriel or Gabriel. Sorry, I'm gonna say it both ways because I know not everybody sees that the way that I do. We're gonna ask them for a message. And so we're gonna pull a card, and our message is abundance. So now we need to get some clarity on that, because abundance is like, that's great. I mean, I'm gonna have an abundance of creative energy. That's cool. I'm down with that. But maybe now, let's get a little bit more specific, and tarot's great for that, right? Let's get a little bit more specific. So I'm gonna pull one of my wands, and I've got the 8 of Wands. All right, so I've got all this abundant energy. I need to do something with it. So let's figure out what we need to do with it. And again, you can pull out any kind of decks, right? The main thing is that I'm still communicating, in a sense, with the personified energy of deity through the lens of Archangel Gabriel or Gabriel. That was a mouthful, wasn't it? So let's see, where do I need to direct all of this quick moving abundant energy? And we've got Justice. That's interesting, right? That's an interesting pull. So you can see how I can still tap into all of this same kind of energy regardless of not having decks, right? And because the decks that I'm working with are out of print, I haven't always had them. In fact, the Archangel Michael one is a very new one to my collection. I've been working primarily with just any sort of deck that has a very swordsy feel to me, or working directly with angel decks, which again, I have an assortment of those as well. So the same kind of practice can be done with any sort of deck, and honestly, it can be done with any sort of energy. If you're not into angel energy, that's cool. You could work with ancestors that have that connection to that creative, that passion pursuit type of energy, that wandsy energy. You could work with fae, you could work with animals, anything that connects to that for you. I just enjoy working with the personified angel energy. It feels very connected to the kind of the as above, so below, right? They're above, I'm below. I feel like they make a nice conduit, a nice way for me to harness and channel and communicate with that energy. So I would do the same thing with any type of a thing that I'm working on, right? Whether it's I'm working with, that kind of swordsy energy with things that I'm thinking, the things that I need protection on, the things that I need to overcome conflict with, the creative energy or the passion pursuits, or that physical space energy, the healing, or the heart space energy with the Mother Mary. I can utilize any of these to help me tap into that energy, which is really what our cards do, right? All of this is already all inside me as far as I like according to my personal philosophy on how the cards work. It's all already within me. I'm just accessing different parts of it and tapping into that larger energy, that connected whole, to help me figure out and to make sense of those larger than life energies that are those cosmic energies or those universal energies that are, again, like I said, largely beyond my little human comprehension. And so my cards and accessing these energies help me to tap into that. I'm just doing a little shuffle because I want to kind of show you another little check-in that I like to do with these types of decks, particularly because, as I mentioned, these angels and Mother Mary as Queen of the Angels is very connected to specific work for me. So one of the things that I like to do is kind of do this little bit of a check-in with this energy, and how can these embodied, personified energies help support me in the work that I'm doing. So I'll take my decks and I will shuffle and flip them all over to get a message about each of those aspects of my life. And from here, I can layer with tarot as much as I wanted to, right? I could pull in, you know, gratitude. What do I need gratitude to focus gratitude on? I've got the Chariot. Avoid allergens. Raphael, he always knows, like, where do I need to avoid allergens? And that King of Pentacles energy. Where do I need inspiration? In the Princess of Cups. What is my life purpose? Queen of Pentacles. I love when she comes up. She's my significator, you know, so when she shows up, I'm like super happy about it. My life's purpose is maybe to embody who I really am, right? To embody me beyond all assumption, expectation, or whatever other people might layer upon me, right? So this gives me an idea of kind of like an overall snapshot of where I am at my life and what I need to be working on. And then again, I will pull from individual decks to help me tap into individual energies. So when I want to work with just angel energy on the whole, I like to sometimes use just a generic kind of all-around angel deck. This is the Angel Tarot cards by Radley Valentine. This is a great one because of all the messaging on the cards. It really does help you to feel as if the messages are coming from other, rather than just looking at the Nine of Cups and going, here's my interpretation of the Nine of Cups, as we might with just a normal deck. But here we have Nine of Water, and it's telling you, may your wishes come true, concerns fade away, a love of life. So it feels a little bit more like an otherly message, a little bit more oracle in that sense. So when I am doing kind of generic angel work where I'm like, I just kind of need a little bit of support, right? I don't need goddess level support. I need just kind of everyday, a little bit of mundane support in my life. So I'll pull out some cards and see where that support can be applied in my life. So again, because I also associate each of the tarot suits to an energy, a personified energy in this way, I can also pull that energy in as well if I want to. So we have the Page of Air, which is telling me I need some support. Air for me is related to, you know, communication, to the swords, to the mind. So maybe I need a little bit of support. It says challenging information, delays or damages to plans, truth delivered without tact. So I can look at what's going on in my life and see where is there some challenge happening in communication, or challenge happening in the plans that I'm making, in that mental landscape. And then if I need to, if I want to, I can layer further and I can pull in, you know, an Archangel Michael oracle to help me understand more of where Michael can lend support in that issue. So here we have the Five of Fire. So Five of Wands. Again, wands for me connects back to Gabriel or Gabriel, and I could pull more support there. But I can look at this and go, where in my life am I kind of conflicted with others or within myself, or conflicted within the work that I'm creating? And then we have the King of Earth, and it's talking about a successful time, confidently accepting opportunities you're being offered. So again, tying into earth, ties into my physical self, into the physical world. And so I can look at maybe things are going really well there and I'm doing what I need to do to support myself in a health sense. And so maybe I could pull an Archangel Raphael card to help me with that. Now, when I get a major arcana, let's see if we can find one here. I do tend to kind of take them on their own. So here we have the Dreamer. If I were to pull the Dreamer there in that position, I wouldn't look to that as anything other than Archangel Metatron. So it allows me to kind of pull in those larger Archangel energies as well. Hopefully this is making sense, but this is just one of the ways that I kind of like to look at where I need some sort of angelic support in my life. And I can do this on a very basic level, just with a very basic angel deck. And for me, this is an energy that's a little bit akin to the kind of star seedy energy as well as the goddess energy, but again, it feels more accessible. I do believe that the angels are supposed to be kind of like the go-between humans and divinity, right? They're based on what I've read little bits over the years, based on the little bit of study that I've done, and based on movies and TV shows and everything, because that's like real life, right? But angels, the idea of angel energy is kind of a go-between, a middleman between the human realm and the divine realm. And so I like to tap into it in that sense. It's not going directly to the source as I might with working with a goddess directly, where if I'm working with Isis directly, I'm going directly to Isis. I am like going straight to the top. That's big stuff that I need help with. That's big energies that I'm trying to work with and cultivate. But when it's just kind of more in the mundane realm, or it's just the everyday type of stuff, or I just need a little bit of support here and there, right? I'm not struggling with ginormous issues. I just want a little celestial support. That's when I tend to go to angel decks, and that's when I tend to tap into that kind of an energy. And I very specifically work with, specific angels and angel adjacent energies or personifications when I need particular work done, or when I'm working on particular issues. So like I said, Mary and Raphael and Michael and Gabriel are the main angelic energies that I personally work with in my practice. I hope that you enjoyed this really long, rambly angel thing, whatever it was. I would love to know if you work with angels and how you interact with that sort of energy. Do you work with them in more of a biblical sense, or do you work with them more in an energetic sense or a personified energy as I do? I would love to hear about it, so feel free to share with me in the comments below. In the meantime, my friends, thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to sharing with you again soon.